This curtain is made of melon. Hello everyone and welcome to instalment 4 of Yorkcraft. On this one we'll be looking at the perpendicular building period. That's the last building period of the Minster, namely the East End and the Chapter House, and we'll look at some chapels as well. The internal height of the East End, or the choir we're stood in, is 102 feet. It was built between 1361 and 1405, although the choir was actually set fire to in 1829 deliberately, so we're seeing a Victorian rendition. These two raised bits, left and right of us, sticking into the transepts, are high towers designed to shine light on the high altar. And as we turn around, we'll be looking at the Great East Window. This is actually the largest expanse of medieval stained glass anywhere in the world, and it was just renovated and restored in 2015, although you can still see some of the original medieval stained glass by John Thornton, a little orb once the Minster's open again. As well, with the perpendicular building style, we can see a lot more detail. There's a couple of monuments we're just looking at there to previous archbishops, as well as tombs on this end. And the central tower did actually fall over in 1407 after a quite bad storm. The wooden spire fell on the East End. The tower as we see it today was completed in 1465, and between then and 1472 they restored the East End and the Minster was finally complete. And now we're just coming to the vestibule, which attaches the chapter house at the north end. As you can see, it's very uneven. There isn't even any glass in that side of the window, and they're all different shapes. That's because they built the chapter house first, and the monks were tired of getting rained on, so they built this next to it. And the chapter house itself was built between 1260 and 1286. It's in octagonal design. In medieval days it would have been used for the archbishops and the ministers to hold services, and it actually is still today for the very same purpose. So one quick thing before we go into the chapels, I'll just go into a bit more detail about the choir here. Now, I said it was destroyed in 1829 by a fire. Obviously the melons are creative licensing. Now, it was destroyed, but original foundation levels are still there. The Buddhist symbols of peace, let's say, coined by a certain fascist dictatorship, they are Victorian as well. And what they actually found when they were rebuilding this was a second crypt room, and we will be looking at the underground levels in the next video, but let's get to the chapels. The first chapel we're going to be looking at is the Zeus Chapel. It was started in 1350. A nice thing about this one is, at the far end we'll look at soon, with the coloured stained glass, that's actually reclaimed medieval glass from the Minster, so we can now see it at eye level, which is quite nice. And 1350 was also when they laid down the first foundation stone for the East End as we know it. So we're back over at the East End to look at a few more chapels. The one just in the centre, opposite the kneeling plinths, is the Ladies' Chapel, or Our Lady's Chapel. And this is actually the 1920s setup of how it would have looked. I do think this was the grandest, with as many things and raised altars in different places. We can also see the walkway a bit more clearly with this setup. I did say in earlier videos I was going to try and keep to 1500s but put modern things in here and there, so I think that one looks okay. Just to the right we have the All Saints Chapel. This is probably out of all of them the one I've done the most work on, although I, to be honest, don't know all that much history about them really. Just make sure this door's closed at least. And coming back to the other side we then have St Stephen's Chapel, and apologies, I haven't really done much on this one. Sadly, as I was building this side, a lot of it was under construction and being renovated as the east window has been redone. But we can still see the base levels. So, just before we do the last few chapels, I'd like to mention this thing just up on our right on this column. In real life this is actually a clock with the two dark lines being brass knights which hit pipes on the hour of every hour and chime inside the Minster, which does sound quite nice. The works for it are obviously on the back, just on the other end of St Joseph's Chapel that we can see here. Coming back over to the other end of the north transepts we then have St John's Chapel. Unfortunately, this is one of the ones where I haven't managed to build much. As you can see, I've only really done the fence lines and that one wooden furnishing hiding the secret door. And yes, there is actually a door back there. On the opposite end of the nave, we then come over to St George's Chapel. This is one of the ones where I've actually managed to almost fully complete it. I know in real life as well, there is actually some 1500s woodwork still surviving in this section, which is amazing considering the fire in the 80s. And that's pretty much it, so we can just look back down the East End there and see how uneven it is. And as always guys, if you did enjoy the video, feel free to give it a thumbs up. If you're feeling super nice, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell, press all so you can see more videos as they come up, and thank you very much. Stay safe and stay crafty.